Hi, this is David Thornburgh, President and CEO of the Committee of 70, and welcome to another primary election edition of Studio C70, which is the virtual medium that we've been using to introduce voters to candidates and issues. And I'm delighted today to be joined by Chuck Peruto, who is a Republican candidate for district attorney here in Philadelphia. And we're going to chat for about 15 or 20 minutes about his background and hopes for the office and for the city if he were to be elected. So welcome, Chuck.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start out with a pretty easy question. What is it that you would want voters to know about your background that would convince them that you'd make a good district attorney here in Philadelphia?
All right. First, I would tell them not to be scared by the fact that I've been a defense attorney for 41 years because it's a plus, not a minus. Not all defense attorneys or civil rights lawyers are the same. I've always been a law and order person. I believe that the reason I'm running as a Republican is that one issue, law and order. I still have Democratic feelings on many, many other issues, as I was a lifelong Democrat. And of course, I was accused of switching to Republican just to get elected. And maybe that's partially true. I know where the fallacies are in the district attorney's office and the criminal justice section to begin with. And really, the district attorney is the chief law enforcement officer of the county. He's in charge of the county detectives. He is somewhat responsible for some police work, even though it's not directly under his or her bailiwick. Therefore, you need to partner up with these people, and you don't partner up with them by calling them names. I want to sit down and literally, because it's my style, it's just a matter of style, break bread with police captains, lieutenants, sergeants, because I can't break bread with 5,000 people, and really get to know their areas, because every area is unique to the city. They all have unique problems, but unfortunately anymore, they have very common problems. That's number one. The second part is my relationship with the Board of Judges. I believe I have a great relationship with judges. And I want to use that to my advantage because I'm 66 years old now. I've done the defense side. I really want to switch. And it's sincere. And I want to make this the last job I ever have. It's not a stepping stone to become president or governor or mayor. I have no interest in those because I'm a true lawyer and I'm a trial lawyer. And I want to sit down with the Board of Judges, break bread with them, entertain them because they like to be entertained. I mean, they're people. And really just tell them, look, you want to do what you got to do. I'm not going to hassle you on this, or this. Give me the gun cases. Give me the shootings. That's all I'm going to care about in my first year because we got to get that under control. And then I could do the job I have to do in the other areas, which is an immense job. And I know what I'm in for, by the way. I work 10 hours a day now. It's probably going to be 12 in the DA's office.
Let me just maybe follow up a little bit. You have been a visible figure in Philadelphia for a long time. You've seen your share of headlines. What is it that motivated you to run this time around for this office? And also just a little bit further about why you chose to run as a Republican.
Okay. Well, I have nothing against Larry Krasner personally, but he is my sole motivating factor for running. 2 years ago, or before Larry Krasner was the DA, I never even thought about public office or running for the district attorney's office. But I really think that there's a problem because my entire family is here. Violence is all around us. I've been shot. And honestly, it's just not a safe city. And perception becomes reality. It's perceived to be unsafe. And therefore, people are afraid. And therefore, they're selling their homes. They're moving to the suburbs. They're vacating with shop owners, storekeepers. When he does not prosecute shoplifters, and he's announced it, well, these people have been put through hell. You have the pandemic, you have the riots, and now you have, they're not going to prosecute your shoplifters. Basically, what you're telling these storekeepers is, we don't want you. Go away. I mean, what are we doing here? You have to prosecute shoplifters, and it has to be escalating penalties because I never heard any songs at Christmas time about Christmas shoplifting. It's supposed to be, you pay for your goods. So let's have a partnership with our store owners, with our residents, because property values could be even higher and taxes lower, because the more people paying property taxes, the lower your taxes are going to be. And I want to increase the tax base. Now, I'm not running for mayor, and a lot of our problems with the criminal justice system lies with opportunities for minorities. I don't debate that, but I'm not running for that office. Would I work with them? Happily, happily. But I can't bite off more than I can chew. Let's curb the violence first. It was the last question is, why am I running as a Republican? Because Republicans have always stood for law and order. We are the law and order candidate. And honestly, I think that I was so hell-bent on getting rid of Larry Krasner that I'm the one that personally got everybody out of the Democratic primary so that Carlos Vega would have a shot one-on-one to unseat him, because 3 in a 4-way race like they usually are, the incumbent's going to get in, and then I'm going to solve nothing. So I had to put ego aside, switch to the Republicans, and people should look at me as Philadelphia's insurance policy in case Vega doesn't unseat him.
I think I have this right. You've also said that if Vega were successful in beating Larry Krasner, that you'd drop out.
That's correct. And I lied to no one when I appeared before the ward leaders to seek the Republican endorsement. I did not hide that. And I told them that very, very early. I said, I don't want to mislead you. If you have another candidate that wants to run and was in it to keeps, then nominate them. But I only want to do this if Larry Krasner is the nominee. And they were fine with that. They were fine with my honesty. And because we all have a fear that Vega is not going to make it, I have been out there campaigning. If you've seen my banners and literature, etc., it's out there. I have my position papers circulated. I'm doing what we learned to do in 6th grade with position papers. I don't think anybody does that anymore.
Well, you might be right. And that's to our collective loss. Let's just ask one more question on the politics, which is again an obvious one. You're unopposed in the primary, so you get a bye to go on to the general election. Let's presume that Larry Krasner wins the Democratic primary. Of course, it's up to the voters, but then you show up for a general election with in the face of a basically 7-to-1 registration disadvantage relative to the Democrats. So what's your formula for winning in November if that were all to play out?
Dave, I wish you would stop exaggerating. It's 8-to-1. So I don't fear the numbers. I don't fear the numbers. People are well aware of what Larry Krasner has done and is doing. And his numbers on gun violence and shootings are exaggerated. The other night we debated, and he said that he has an 85% conviction rate on gun violence cases. That is completely misleading, to the point where I don't even like to use the word lie, because I like Larry, but it's really misleading to the point where it's a lie. Because when you have a case that's worth 10 to 20 years, it's a severe case, and the defendant is offered 6 months, and he takes it. Of course he's going to take it. I'm a defense lawyer. We would take it. That counts as a conviction. That's a lot of baloney. That's baloney, and that's my gripe. And if you talk to the judges who are not allowed to go on record, they will tell you the very same thing, that that's baloney. And they actually encourage me, hit him, Chuck, hit him here. Look at this, hit him. And they're actually supplying me with stuff. And maybe I'm not supposed to say that, but I'm not using names. But honestly, they're fudged at that. And that's the cases that he accepts for prosecution. You have to understand, it would boggle the mind to look at the numbers of arrests for gun and shootings, and then the now process where they don't even get past the bail arraignment. They don't accept them because they look at these fact sheets and they believe it was an illegal stop. I mean, that's for a judge to determine. You're the DA. You're not the judge and jury. If a case is blatantly bad, which nobody's going to write up their police report blatantly bad, let me tell you from experience, there can't possibly be that many cases dismissed without prosecution. It's just unheard of. You're not keeping your oath as a district attorney. You're actually acting as a public defender with power, And you know where I got those words? I'm a public defender with power. They come from Larry Krasner, and I can pull up the tape if you want.
Let's fast forward and presume that that you win, that you're district attorney for the next 4 years. Tell me 3 specific ways in which the city of Philadelphia would be better off after your first 4-year term. Give me concrete as best you can.
1, safety. I have hit head on this new word. You know, we have new words that enter the Webster's dictionary all the time. And my latest fun word is mass incarceration. That is a bunch of baloney invented to scare young people and to fuel this progressive movement. I have a little secret to tell you because I know nobody else is listening, but mass incarceration comes about when many people are shooting up our streets. See, I have this crazy notion that if 100 people are shooting up the streets, that all 100 of them belong in jail. So if that's called mass incarceration, I'm guilty. I'll go to mass and maybe I'll be forgiven because that's the way I look at mass.
So what's the metric there? Arrests, convictions?
Well, convictions. And we're going to get convictions. How do I do that? Which could be their next question. By bringing back elite trial lawyers who were so upset about being fired. These people were lifelong, and they're my friends. They're my friends. These are lifelong prosecutors who never had plans to leave. They were seriously underpaid and stayed anyway because of dedication. I know what salary cut I'm going to be in for. I'm dedicated. That's what we need. People who really come in it with a fury and want to make our place where we live better. And that's number 1 is public safety. Number 2 is public safety. And number 3 is public safety. It's all about public safety.
Yep, we're trying to get a little bit past there though. So I heard you say that as part of your approach to increasing public safety, that you would rehire a number of the ADAs that.
Oh yes. I would, number 1, hire new ones from the Philadelphia area and the 4 neighboring law schools, the 5 neighboring law schools that we have. That's number 1. You have to know the area. You have to know the city. But rehire, and I could name 10 off the bat that I would bring back in. And 1 is Carlos Vega with a high position, and Carlos knows it. And I know, guaranteed he'll come back. Some others that really top elite prosecutors. He's going to be upset because I'm using his name right now, but Jude Conroy is one of the best trial lawyers I ever tried against. He's still at the Krasner DA's office. He hasn't been fired, but he's been shelved. They took him out of the trying cases in homicide, and they have him these new assignments, and they keep reassigning him for window dressing. You don't give a guy like that window dressing or put him on a shelf. You get him in there and get convictions on your nasty cases. And let me tell you something else. Larry Krasner has stated that under no circumstance will he ever seek the death penalty. And that resonates with voters because Philadelphians are against the death penalty by the numbers in the polls. However, I've seen it all as a defense lawyer. When a rival drug dealer kidnaps your wife, because you're a drug dealer, and sends you her toes and fingers in the mail, unless he gets $500,000, and then eventually kills her and gets caught. I, Chuck Peruto, am going to seek the death penalty on that guy 10 times out of 10, 100 out of 100, 1,000 out of 1,000. Even if the Supreme Court sets the death penalty aside, which they do, and he doesn't actually get his lethal injection where they give you the finger as they're dying, because that's another argument. But let me tell you something. Let him sit on death row. Let him be away from his family, like the deceased is. Let him be away from his little buddies in jail, like the deceased is. Let him suffer like nobody else has suffered except the victim, because that's a deterrent to crime. And if it's not a deterrent to crime, I don't care. I want the most serious punishment we have when you're that hardened, when you're that heinous, when you're that depraved.
Let's go to number 3. I don't think we quite get into number 3, but let me ask you in this form. You know, when you say you want to increase public safety in Philadelphia, make people feel safe, over the years, there's a lot of disagreement about exactly what makes crime rates, murder rates, petty crimes go up, go down. So what is it, what would you commit to in terms of where specific crime rates might be after 4 years, and what is it that would drive those crime rates down?
I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you asked. 200, at least 200, ask any cop, of the 500 to 600 homicides we have are drug dealing related. When the drug dealers corners their business, their enterprises, they actually have a value. You could sell it to another drug dealer, your corner, your business. People don't understand that. Well, the value of that drug enterprise goes up when penalties go down because there's more people to engage in it. It's less risk. Right now, they're at an all-time high. It's like real estate. And the penalties are nothing or very little because he has announced we've lost the war on drugs. Why go after these low-level drug dealers? Well, the low-level drug dealers lead you to the big drug dealers. And I want to smash them. I want to smash them with a hammer because that's 200 of your 500 homicides. If they want to cooperate with us, we'll protect them. We'll make sure that they're anonymous. We'll use the grand jury. Let's get to the major players and wipe them out. So there's 200 of your homicides right there. So when you say, well, there's not much a district attorney can do before he gets the case, maybe he can convict the guy after the arrest, but there's not much you could do before the arrest. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. Wipe out the drug trade. Obviously, you're not going to wipe it out, but get the word out. And let me tell you something else. People, they really criticized Bill McSwain for advertising penalties on billboards. And they said he was just advertising himself. Whether he was advertising himself, I don't care. But a byproduct of it is let the criminals know that if you deal these drugs, you're going to get 2 years in jail, 5 years in jail, 10 years in jail, whatever the case may be. But you're going to go to jail. And you get the word around in the jails. They all call home. If you've ever had cases where, and I have, where they give you the tapes of the phone calls that they make home, you hear these conversations all the time. Where the drug pickups are now, how much money is going to be handled, and the DAs laugh because these guys think they're talking in code and it's easy to crack. But you break them, you get rid of 200 homicides. Don't tell me you can't. And honest to God, talk to anybody. We have so many district attorneys sitting over in that office doing nothing. They're collecting a pay, and because they believe in his ultra liberal theories, and they're all out doing policy. They're in this progressive movement like I've never seen before. You're paying for it. Tax dollars are paying for a political agenda. People have to understand that. And that's why I'm so dedicated in getting Krasner out. I don't care who the DA is. It doesn't have to be me.
All right. Let's close with a question that we generally use when we're talking to political candidates. This is the always never question. What will you always do if you were a district attorney elected by the people of Philadelphia? And what would you never do? What would you always do, and what would you never do?
What I would always do is prosecute a police officer for violating the law, especially in the case of a shooting. When I say violating the law, I'm talking about a clear case where the law has been violated, where you shoot an unarmed man without reason. I'm going to prosecute. So whether I get the fraternal order of police to back me, individual cops to back me, or the Lord Jesus comes down from heaven and anoints me, I don't care who endorses me. I'm going to prosecute a cop for shooting an unarmed citizen in a wrongful way. By the same token, I'm not going to second guess a cop on the street with his adrenaline pumping after chasing a defendant, finally quartering him, and he has an honest belief that his life is in jeopardy. And that's where Peruto is going to make a difference. I am going to prosecute where it needs to be prosecuted all the time.
So was that the never? You'd never second guess a police officer that made a...
I'd never second guess because some cases are clear. When I mean where there's no evidence to second guess them, I'm not going to second guess.
Got it.
And when I say some things that I'll never do, I'll never violate my oath. My oath is to the citizens to bring these cases, not to second guess them, not to put forth an agenda. Whether I like it or not, I'm going to prosecute. When he says he's no longer prosecuting prostitution or simple drug possession, these people need help. They're always addicted to drugs when they're doing these things. And I say the term always, okay, I may be off by 2%, but lock them up. I'm not saying you have to send them to prison or give them a permanent record, but you can't help them if you don't bring them through the system. So don't just dismiss them and like make it a revolving door, which people are accusing them of. I want to make sure they get some help, and it has to be forced drug help. Then let's force it. We have 2 empty county prisons right now. We can't take all these unemployed sociology and psychology majors that graduate in this area. They're looking for jobs. Train them to be drug counselors. Remodel these prisons to be drug rehabilitation centers, and let's help our citizens get back on the right track. I know that's more of the mayor's job, but it's also the DA's job.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing a few minutes with us. Chuck Peruto, we will see you in the fall. You're guaranteed a spot on that card in November. In the meanwhile, I just want to remind everybody, we do have a primary election coming up May 18th. Now's the time to check your registration, to make sure you have your mail ballot if you're going to vote by mail. If you want to find out more about Chuck Peruto or other candidates, you can go to our website, 70.org, the word 70.org, and we have a cool little tool that you can use to make your own picks, because there's a lot of important races beyond this one. You've got judicial races, you've got some interesting ballot questions. So the more the merrier. Again, Chuck Peruto, thanks for spending a couple minutes with us, and we'll look forward to seeing you again in the fall.
Thank you. And let's start appointing our judges on merit.
Well, no disagreement there.
Okay, great, great.
Okay, have a good day.